from our show, do donate to the station. And you can also, cheekily enough, follow us on YouTube. Do like, subscribe, and share this show with others. Let other people know that you're listening to Dave and Mickey Shiny Set Out. You can get merch both from the station and from our own website. And I'm just going to thank you straight up. Thanks for listening. This is show number 621.
120, yeah, 600.
As expected. And what's today's topic?
We're talking about the Kozyrev mirror, as we have mentioned it a few weeks ago, which closely is, I guess it's linked closely to time travel as well as remote viewing. So we'll be touching on those subjects as well.
This story's got everything.
Just a word of warning here. There isn't a lot of information on Kozyrev mirrors per se. I mean, some of it, and there's a few other documentaries out there that are pretty good. I'm just right now downloading a couple of CIA documents. There's a patent as well. I've got one document here. I will share with you. I'm going to say what it says here. This is CIA RDP 86 00513 R0008 260-10015-8. Approved for release 19th of June 2000. Author B.P. Kozyrev and M.A. Kropotkin. A study of spectral reflection coefficients of the coatings of thermal radiation detectors in the wavelength region from 10 to 200 microns, I'm going to say, maybe? Is it microns? Maybe it is microns. But it's a fairly, yeah. And periodical, it was actually published in Optica e Spectroscopia, 1961, volume 10, number 5, pages 657 to 662, etc., etc., etc. And that was, like I said, released some time ago. Now, what is the Kozyrev mirror, and why bother? What's the point? Let's get right into it. The Kozyrev mirror, right, appears in Russian. Now, this is the official Western view here, right? In Russian esoteric literature from the 1990s. Now, that's not entirely true, because they were published in Russian scientific magazines. Okay? They were published in Russian science, not esoteric. Anyway. It's a pseudoscientific device made from long sheets of aluminium. Pseudoscientific. I'm not entirely... See, I'm always confused when somebody says pseudoscientific. Well, because I don't really know what that means, Dave. I know I don't want to get hung up on this term, but it's really important. Like in the same
like
way that we
tangled in it right now.
I'm tangled. It's a wicked web I weave. No, I just I have the same issue with that term
as esoteric.
Well,
like immediately they're portraying to the reader that it's nothing to worry about because it's only esoteric. It's not scientific, and then in the same sentence, only separated by a comma, it's a pseudo-scientific device. Hang on, is that pretend science? Not kind of science.
Yeah, look.
Pretend.
It's people talk about the paranormal, the supernatural. They talk about the elites. These are all wrong terms. They're wrong terms. I think pseudoscientific. See, I think pseudoscientific refers to the fact that it is dressed up like a science thing, but really it is because we don't think it is. Okay, it doesn't follow all the things that we needed to follow to be a scientific thing. So it looks like it's scientific, but it's really pseudoscientific. You know what that reminds me of? I'll tell you what.
I like the pyramid on top.
There was this book written by Michael Cremo, the first one, where he really questions the age of the human race, etc., etc. And it was, it's a hard read. It really is a hard read. And I forget now the name of it. I think everything. Not everything was wrong. It doesn't matter. It'll come to me. But the point is this: everybody was praising his scholarly research, because what he did, he went back to a couple hundred years of newspaper articles, old books, etc., finding all this material, right? And everybody was very impressed with his methodology, right? The scientific rigor he underwent to actually find all this stuff and then present it. What they disagree with, though, was completely what was actually in those articles and what the position, like finding a bowl, for example, or a pestle, as it were, in a mortar in coal, for example, and finding artifacts in stratas that are hundreds of million years old, including evidence of human or human-like creatures, hundreds of millions of years old, etc. And then, of course, that becomes pseudoscientific. Even though the method and the methodology, etc., his scholarship, as it were, was praised, right? I mean, this is a well-researched book, blah, 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 but, we just think it's complete nonsense because obviously it can't be true. Really? It's obvious? I thought science was meant to follow the evidence. And then you make a judgment on whether or not it's obvious or not, once you have the evidence, and then you rule on it. That's what I thought science should do.
No, page 1, Mickey. No, that's it. No, don't believe it. Why did you even buy the book?
I'm clearly wrong, Dave. Right? I mean, what?
That's making me rock back and forward in a fetal position,
It is funny. In fact, he wrote another book called Human Devolution. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. But these are very dry academic texts. This is not entertaining at all. If you're looking for an entertaining read, that's not it. It is not that. But yeah, it's a forbidden. Maybe it's called Forbidden History. I can't remember. But ultimately, the point I'm making is you can't have it both ways. If someone does follow the scientific method and it does come up with methodologies and tests and procedures and experiments, etc., and builds something, follows the protocols, records it. You gotta look at it. At least you have to look at it. You can't just say, I think I just threw up in my mouth. Can't do it. No. What? Because that's disingenuous. Okay? Because there are certain things that just don't fit. I mean Einstein. People lined up to prove him wrong, right, all the time. Except ultimately, for most of the things he put forward, he was proven right. Whether or not he stole it from someone else, that's a story for another day. But you have to be at least honest, right? And so this and the thing is this, okay? Nikolai Alexandrovich Kozyrev is an astronomer, okay? And I want to quickly finish this here, so then you'll understand my point. Okay, so it's a pseudoscientific device made from long sheets of aluminium, sometimes glass, or a reflecting mirror-like material, curled into a cylindrical spiral. I'll get into it in a second. It is alleged to focus different types of radiation. Well, if it's a mirror, it will focus different types of radiation.
That's right.
You don't have to allege it. That's what it will do. It's okay. It's just what mirror.
Yeah,
it's a thing that
Becky. It's one of those magical words. So you've got esoteric, pseudoscientific, and alleged.
I know, right? Including radiation coming from biological objects when those objects are placed inside. Kozyrev mirrors were used in experiments related to extrasensory perception, conducted at the Institute of Experimental Medicine of Siberia, a division of the Russian Academy of Sciences. Now, okay, we have the Institute of Experimental Medicine of Siberia, okay, and it's a part of the Russian Academy of Sciences. So what you're saying here is, well, what do the Russians know about science, right? That's what you're saying, essentially. And I'm thinking, wow, how conceited of us or whoever wrote this. I mean, why would you say it's pseudoscientific when it was actually part of scientific development within the Russian Academy of Sciences? And don't forget, back then, And by the way, it didn't just appear in the 1990s. This goes back much further. Like I said, this was published in the 1960s here. Okay, Kozyrev. Anyway, but yeah, so it's really disingenuous to say that, oh no, it's all just nonsense and we don't worry about it, etc., etc. And then you say, well, yeah, it's part of the Russian Academy of Sciences. Now, it wasn't just a curled piece of aluminium; it was curled in the shape of a Fibonacci sequence number, which is like a Nautilus shell. Okay?
Yes.
This was important. It had to be curled in the shape of a Nautilus shell, which, of course, as we all know, it represents the Fibonacci sequence. Yeah. And there's a 1998 patent for the building of this thing. It's RU2122446, device for the correction of men's psychosomatic diseases. And that's the one I found on Google patents as well. Right? And it's the device itself is a Kozyrev mirror. Now, apparently humans placed into the spirals allegedly, again, experienced anomalous psychophysical sensations. Well, it was part of the... Now, I actually watched this documentary on this as well. I watched the methodology, and I watched the people coming in it. I watched the interviews. Admittedly, they were translated from the Russian, so I don't speak Russian. But ultimately, these were interviews of the people within the mirror, and that's what they experienced. They said there's nothing alleged about it. You either call them liars and say no, that what you're saying is not true, or you go, okay, well, that's what you experienced. Okay, fine. But it's not what they allegedly experienced, it's what they say they experienced. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's a difference in language here that's important to know. Now, Kozyrev mirrors were shown in a documentary on the Russian state TV channel, and articles about them were published in tabloid newspapers in Russia and Ukraine, but not in scientific journals. Not true. That's actually not true. There's a claim that during one of the early experiments in the Arctic village of Dixon, scientists placed an ancient symbol of Trinity into a mirror installation and perceived a field of force around the setup. The experiment was led by Vladimir Kaznachev of the Russian Academy of Medical Science. Okay, what is this? It's made from highly conductive pure aluminium. Okay, which is built into a Fibonacci spiral shape, and with the magnetic alloy on the inside layer of the structure. And there's a whole bunch of references to that as well. Now, the next article comes from another place. Why don't you tell us about the next bit?
So this is the 10 points.
Yes.
Perfect. So there's 10 points here about the mirror itself, and I suppose these would be part of the patent. And it says Kozyrev mirrors, concave mirrors made of polished metal. Number 2, they were named after Russian astronaut Nikolai Kozyrev. Number 3, the mirrors are believed to have esoteric properties. Could call it paranormal properties. Number 4, some people use them for meditation and spiritual practices. Number 5, Kozyrev mirrors can allegedly enhance intuition and psychic abilities. I mean, when the show's done, I'm going to build one for myself. Number 6, they may also be used for healing purposes. 7, the mirrors are said to reflect subtle energies and vibrations. Number 8, there is limited scientific research on their effectiveness.
In the West.
In the West, yeah. And I suppose limited, is in inverted commas. It isn't, but it should be. Number 9, some people claim to have had profound experiences with the mirrors. Number 10, Kozyrev mirror therapy is a growing trend in alternate medicine or alternative medicine.
That's right. So certainly something to look at. Now, I would like to be able to build one, and apparently it's really easy to build them, right? So I'm going to see what I can do. You need to build one that's big enough for you to actually be able to get inside. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that's clear. But it is important to I think it is important for us to do that. So I will try to build one and see where that leaves us.
So I just want to make a point here that the spiral itself, if you're looking at the Fibonacci number set, is an ever-increasing number from the inside to out. But if you reverse it and think about how energy is funneled into the center, that should remain and be amplified in there, then I can see why this would be a thing. And not necessarily have to put something on the inside. You could have something on the outside and be exposed. If you have a look at the first radio telescopes that were just like a horn, you know, the mountaintops in Switzerland, Becky, with that long horn that people would blow to announce
the Alphorn.
There you go. So, and you take a small version of that and give it to a very hard-hearing person, and they stick it in their ear and they go, "Hey, hey," or the conch shell or whoever, whatever you want. That's the same thing of that amplification of a greater surface area of incoming sound being funneled down to a very small point. And it's doing the same thing. Because it's not going to escape the spiral. It leads it in, and then it's just going to accumulate on the inside. I think it's very interesting. I really do. I think there must be something to it.
It's fascinating, absolutely. In fact, I found this documentary from 12 years ago. It's called Mirrors Breaking the Future. I'll put it into I'll put it into the chat so you can all enjoy it, and maybe revive it. But there it is. Which brings us to another article. Time travel experiments with Kozyrev mirrors unveiling success. Time is not linear and can be controlled and manipulated through the use of Kozyrev mirrors, potentially unlocking human psychic abilities and awakening human consciousness. These are the time travel experiments and findings. The experiments using Kozyrev mirrors suggested that time as we know it may not exist, and that individuals were able to view any place in the world and even travel through time. So just pausing on that for a second. Quantum mechanics seems to indicate that time is in fact, not what we think it is, neither is space. So our solid world that we see or feel around us may not be as solid as we all think it is. Things like causality seem to be in question now, as well as retroactive actions, indicating somehow that the flow of time is arbitrary when it comes to quantum level effects. Okay, so that we know this. Okay, we know that. What we also know is that the Russians, as well as the Americans and potentially other governments in the world, undertook remote viewing experiments, and we'll talk about that at length as part of this show cycle. You know, Project Stargate, you know, the stuff that happened in Montauk as well. It's closely related to mind control, believe it or not. There's a movie that was recently made, The Man Who Stared at Goats, based on a book by Ron Johnson. Now, the movie is not really that closely related to the book, but the book itself was written as fact. It's not a movie script. Okay, Major Stubblebine and all these people, they actually existed. This was a special unit of the United States Army that was trying to use, I guess, esoteric, let's call it, forms of warfare. In fact, Major Stubblebine was convinced that he could walk through a wall if he just tried hard enough. And again, you know, from a quantum perspective, it shouldn't be a problem at all to walk through a wall, as the wall doesn't really exist. But then again, neither do you. So it's really fascinating to see. But again, do read the book, The Man Who Stared at Goats, rather than watching the movie. And it's really quite interesting. And this is the same Ron Johnson that wrote, I think, Them, you know, spending time with extremists, etc. He went to the Bilderberg sorry, he went to Bohemian Grove with Alex Jones.
Yeah.
That's I think how
Yeah.
Alex Jones first became the prominence. So he spent time with him. He spent time with David Icke, and he spent time with the Grand Vizier of the KKK and a whole bunch of other people as well. The book is called Them. So if you haven't read Ron Johnson, I highly recommend you do so. Fascinating stuff. Sorry. Now, the protagonist, the person that was in the Kozyrev mirror, experience of seeing a sunny day, hearing birds and children playing through the translucent wall suggests the possibility of accessing alternate realities or dimensions through time travel experiments using Kozyrev mirrors. The discovery of volcanic activity on the moon was confirmed when astronauts brought back moon rocks and providing evidence for Kozyrev's findings. Kozyrev proposed that a mirror can be made to bend time, making time travel possible. Kozyrev mirrors invented by Kozyrev have the capability to bend and focus a wide range of energy, including microwaves, lasers, ultraviolet rays, particles from space, and even time energy. The Kozyrev mirror, designed to capture and focus psychic energy, led to strange events and intense feelings of fear when activated, as documented in the book Cosmic Consciousness of Humanity by Dr. Kaznachev and Travamov. The success rate of time travel experiments using Kozyrev mirrors jumped to 95%, shocking both scientists and the CIA. Participants in the time travel experiments using Kozyrev mirrors reported feeling weightless, flying and seeing outer space celestial bodies, and even UFOs during longer sessions. So I just want to go back to the fear thing. So apparently, every single person, as they were coming into the room where the Kozyrev mirror was, and they were about to go into it, experienced an intense feeling of irrational fear. What they also said was the more you use the mirror, the less you would feel the fear, and eventually it would completely disappear. This reminds me, and this is I know it's going to sound crazy, but on Skinwalker Ranch and other sides of that nature, right? And even when we hear stories about UFOs, abduction, etc., people talk about irrational fear that grips them, almost panic, like a life-threatening fear. On the Skinwalker Ranch, that happened a lot to people there, right? Documented on videos as well, and then you can, the unease they felt, etc. But people also feel this fear when there's, not always, but quite often when they're confronted with the UFO experience. And Sasquatch, this irrational fear, and other strange phenomena, there's this dread, that's the word, there's this dread that seems to come over us when we're confronted with these kinds of phenomena. But the key thing here is it seems that the more you use the mirror, that dread, this fear, disappears. Now the question, of course, is what's happening? There must be some kind of energy field that we experience as we are maybe bridging the barriers, right, between times and dimensions and other things. Maybe it's like, I don't know if any of you go hunting or go fishing. If you ever have, and you remember your first kill, right? You kill a fish or animal or whatever, and that feeling of well, maybe you didn't feel it, and in that case you're a special kind of person, but this aversion to killing, this initial aversion that you have or had, this fear of killing something living. Right? I wonder if this is something similar, like an instinctual thing. We are now, going somewhere where we really don't know where we are. And I'm thinking now of people that have disappeared in parks as well, right? Maybe they felt that fear as they were, getting closer to whatever, maybe the portal or whatever, rift in time, I don't know, whatever, that took them away, that made them disappear. I really do wonder.
Well, I'm also going to draw it to the deja vu experience, that you get not only a memory, but you get this very unusual sensation.
Yes, absolutely.
So is this the Einstein in a box, time in a box, where it's all there, but what you might be doing here by entering it is making a new connection that didn't exist.
Yeah.
Maybe
So-
that's what that experience feels like.
Quite possibly. Look, the thing is, we don't know. Right? That's really ultimately what we're saying here. But what we do know is that something went on and something seemed to have worked. Dave, why don't you take us through the theoretical challenges here?
Theoretical challenges to mainstream science. Oh, I like it already. Torsion, the twisting of space-time itself, is a cornerstone of Kozyrev's work, and if proven correct, could potentially solve everything. According to Kozyrev, torsion is the fabric of space-time is caused by time, not by particles, challenging mainstream science understanding. Just like a school of fish creates waves and ripples in water, time creates ripples or waves in torsion in the ether. It's suggesting that time can have different densities and move at different speeds. Torsion fields and time energy can transmit information instantaneously, surpassing the speed of light, as demonstrated by Kozyrev's detection of torsion from a star in the past, present, and future. Nikola Kozyrev's theory about time, energy, and the ether challenges mainstream science beliefs and could potentially be proven true.
And that's actually the key thing about Kozyrev's work that we need to just focus on for a second here. And this is this
The shiny floors,
mentioning.
Mickey.
Sorry,
The shiny floors
the shiny floors.
with open windows.
Yes. Oh, it's true. It'd be funny if it weren't so true. But ultimately, he spoke about the ether. Now that's a big no-no. That's just poo-pooed in Western mainstream science. You can't talk about there's no ether. You can't talk about the ether. Now, I happen to love science fiction a lot, and I love science fiction. Back from the 30s and 40s, and everybody talks about ether, in the ether, and the spaceships, and and propagation of signals in the ether through space. And then in the 1950s, it stops. 60s, I guess, as well. And then nothing anymore about the ether. The ether has now been retired as a concept. If he had said quantum foam, yeah, or something similar, then that's forgivable. But let's be very clear here. The ether, as it was understood then, right, as the underlying structure of the universe, that's what the ether is. Right? The substance, let's call it the underlying substance of reality, right? Now, if they had just said, okay, well, science has moved on, we're going to call it quantum foam. I think we wouldn't have an issue, because that's exactly what the quantum foam is. Even looking at the Planck length and what it indicates as far as the smallest units are concerned of reality, I envision, and I've said it before, these bubbles. It's probably the wrong word, bubble, but like the foam that is underlying all of reality, out of which arises our reality in many ways. And this ether, this quantum foam, though, doesn't seem to be subject to the laws of nature that govern the things that arise from it. It's really quite interesting, where the things that are arising from this underlying, the best word is substance, I guess, of existence, are governed by laws different to the substance itself, the source, if you will.
So quantum foam is there's another way of describing it. If you've got two perfectly atom flat surfaces and you put them together, there's a measurable force that is attempting to push them apart.
The Casimir effect.
Yeah, and that's the quantum foam, where things pop in and out of existence.
And that's the thing, because we used to think, right? We used to think that atoms are quite static, right? There's an atom and it's like a little apple,
There
right?
it
It's not
is.
an apple,
Yeah.
right? And there, but it's a thing. It's made of matter, right? And then we looked at it and we found out more, and we found out, oh, okay, there's a nucleus and electrons and such. And in reality, the atom itself doesn't have much substance at all. In fact, it's 99% empty. But another thing we learned is that these electrons, you can't really rely on those either, because you don't know where they are all the time. In fact, they might not be where you think they are. And they do pop in and
out of existence, that's right.
And you're going, what?
They totally do. A regular neon globe that you might see illuminating a bar advertisement, yeah, or in Vegas or wherever you happen to be. Not LEDs, old school neons, the glass tubes with electrodes at either end. They produce two frequencies of light from the same gas, and it's impossible because there's no transition between the two electrons changing or having to change their rail that they're on. There's no transition. They pop in and they're in one, they pop out, they pop in and they're in the other one. And it was only upon the measurement of the light being given out by a neon and someone going, hang on, that doesn't make sense. It's got these electrons, but how could it be doing two things at once? And these are all of those little indicator markers that this reality that we're living in appears to have as anomalies that matches the quantum world in all of its strangeness. And it only appears every once, like, it's not all the time that we see it in the macro world, in what we know as the world. But, and as Meki and I say, we're only seeing what's being rendered, and it's only being rendered because we're looking at it.
Now, I do want to spend, just since you mentioned it, just a couple of seconds on the Kozyrev effect. Right? Now, the Kozyrev effect is an attractive interaction between two uncharged and perfectly conducting plates held a short distance apart. It's usually a micron. Okay. Now, the only attractive force should be gravity, right? But it's not. It is not. Now, the Kozyrev force might appear small, right? However, at distances below a micrometer, the Kozyrev effect becomes the strongest force between those two neutral objects. Indeed, at separations of 10 nanometers, about 100 times the typical size of an atom, right? So it's not that, it's not negligible.
It's not tiny, yeah.
Yeah. The Kozyrev effect produces the equivalent of 1 atmosphere of pressure.
Wow.
And you got to ask yourself, what?
Where's it coming from?
Well, I give you. let me read this to you, and then you tell me how much of it is nonsense. The Kozyrev effect shows that quantum field theory allows the energy density in certain regions of space to be negative relative to the ordinary vacuum energy. It has been shown theoretically that quantum field theory allows states where the energy can be arbitrarily negative at a given point. That just says we have no idea. That's what that says. So, I don't know. Okay.
Sure. Instead of introducing a constant to make everything positive numbers, it can be negative. It doesn't matter. Yeah. I'm not going to let it get to my head. I don't need a constant.
Yeah. So then the dark energy comes in, etc., etc. Let's just
Here we go. Sure.
let's not go there. But look. Again, we are at the precipice of not knowing at all what's going on, but not being able to admit it either. Right? Now we don't know what's going on, but we're also not able to say that we don't know. So we come up with a whole bunch of fancy words saying blah 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 blah, right? So what is it though, really? I mean, what is it? And what's the ether? Why can't we say ether or say quantum foam? It's like UFOs and UAP. You can't say UFO anymore. It's too because the ether went out with Einstein, by the way, right? Pretty much. There's no ether. because Einstein started talking about space-time continuum, right? Now, at a stretch, you could say that's the ether, right? But no, it's the time-space continuum. Okay, you good with that? Okay, let's just stay on that.
For his modelling to work, he had to glue both together.
Yeah,
space and time.
Now, of course, what the problem now becomes in our reality is that space and time may be non-existent or exist in a different way from what we understand them to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, enough of that though. There's a very interesting article here, Dave, and why don't you get us started? This is from September 27, 2023, so fairly recent, from the Pernicious Times.
Well, the heading says Kozyrev mirrors portals to the unknown. In the realm of scientific exploration, few phenomena have intrigued and baffled researchers as much as the Kozyrev mirrors. These enigmatic devices, named after Russian scientist Nikolai Kozyrev, are mirrors that allegedly possess the power to manipulate time and consciousness. While the historical events surrounding Kozyrev mirrors have been well documented, there is a lesser known story that has intrigued scientists and paranormal enthusiasts alike. An incident where someone disappeared while sitting inside one of these mysterious mirrors. Nikolai Kozyrev, a brilliant astrophysicist, first delved into the study of these mirrors during the mid-20th century.
Sorry, 1 second. Now, we remember now that the official position was that this was in the 1990s. Now, this is complete nonsense. Okay, this is much longer ago. Sorry, go ahead.
That's right. So that's at least 40 years earlier.
Yeah.
His fascination with time, energy, and the nature of the science led him to explore the uncharted territory of mirror-based experiments. Kozyrev believed that mirrors could harness and amplify energy, potentially unlocking the secrets of time travel and consciousness expansion. Kozyrev's experiments, which involved rotating specifically crafted mirrors, sparked a flurry of scientific inquiry and debate. While some hailed his findings as revolutionary, others dismissed them as mere pseudoscience. Yet one undeniable fact remains. Kozyrev mirrors had an uncanny ability to influence the human mind. In the 1960s that is, a prominent scientist named Dr. Elena Petrova conducted a series of experiments with Kozyrev mirrors in her remote Siberian laboratory. Her goal was to explore the limits of human consciousness and the potential for expanding it through mirror-induced meditation. Participants reported vivid dreams, altered states of awareness, and even sensations of travelling through time. However, one day a young researcher named Alexei ventured to explore the mirrors alone. He entered the laboratory and sat in front of one of the rotating Kozyrev mirrors, closing his eyes to meditate. As he entered a deep trance-like state, the mirror's rotation seemed to intensify. Minutes turned into hours, and when Dr. Petrova returned, she was alarmed to find Alexei missing. The mirror, still rotating, reflected an empty chair. Panic surged through her veins as she realized that Alexei had vanished without a trace. Authorities were called and an exhaustive search was launched, but there was no sign of the young researcher. The disappearance of Alexei sent out shockwaves through the scientific community, prompting both intrigue and caution regarding the Kozyrev mirrors. In the years that followed, researchers remained wary of the mirrors' potential dangers. While they continued to study and experiment with them, the incident with Alexei served as a stark reminder of the mysteries that surrounded these enigmatic devices. As for Alexei, his fate remains unknown. Some believed that he became trapped in an alternate dimension, while others think he may have journeyed through time itself. The story of his disappearance serves as a haunting reminder that the Kozyrev mirrors are far more than just scientific curiosities. They are portals to the unknown, capable of unraveling the fabric of reality itself. The Kozyrev mirrors continue to captivate the imagination of scientists and adventurers alike, inviting them to explore the boundaries of time, consciousness, and the very essence of existence. Whether they hold the key to unlocking the mysteries of the universe or are simply the stuff of legend, one thing is certain: the allure of the Kozyrev mirrors will endure for generations to come. Mickey, I got something I wanted to say. In Lost in Space, that was filmed in the 60s, there was an event where Will was trapped in a mirror.
Oh, okay.
Superman, the movie, the three bad people were trapped in mirrors in space. Do you remember that?
I do.
There might be much more to this than we thought.
Well, fairy tales always come back to mirrors. Prophets and fortune tellers. So Nostradamus himself, Michel de Notre Dame, he was using a bowl of water to focus, which is really a mirror, if you think about it, to focus his thoughts. Fortune tellers using crystal balls, again, a mirror-like device. The mirrors in fairy tales, that can see all, that had portals virtually to anywhere you wanted it to be. So this goes back well beyond our time. This connection of mirrors and the magical, if you will. So yes, I think there's much more to mirrors than we might want to admit. Certainly, certain kind of mirrors that have very specific attributes, right? Because they do reflect, at the very least, all visible light, right?
And that's electromagnetic spectrum, so sure.
And in fact, yes, certainly it seems that the Kozyrev mirrors are reflecting even more, and then they say that they even reflect time, as it were, particles or biological energy as we emit it. Right?
I get an uneasy feeling, Mackie, of having to sit in front of the mirror in a hairdresser's when I'm getting my hair cut.
Okay.
I can never understand why they have to cut my hair while I'm looking at it. I don't care. Why do that? Why not just point me away from the mirror, cut my hair, and then show me at the end?
Yeah, that's a good point. Now there's an old German superstition.
Ooh.
And maybe it's not just German, but if in the new year, around midnight, maybe it's any day at midnight, I can't remember, but if you light a match or a candle and you sit in front of a mirror, you will, over your shoulder, you will see the face of the devil. So it's spooky. But yeah, and a lot of people, and I mean, that Jewish people, there's a different reason for that, but they hang black cloths over all mirror surfaces when someone passes away. Now, allegedly, because the reason they do that is so no one really worries about their appearance, because this is not a time to worry about appearances, right? But who knows if there's not maybe a deeper.
I've seen the same thing. I've seen the same thing before in other places.
Yeah, it's possible.
Like when a monarch passes away.
Oh yeah. Maybe there's a deeper reason for hanging or covering mirrors than just vanity, right? So. Again, I mean, maybe, you know what? I think what we need to do as part of this, and then we do some research into it, I'm going to look at the mysteries of mirrors. Because, like with many things, when we did the show on water, okay?
Oh, what a discovery.
I mean, what? Because you think, I mean, water. I mean, what could possibly be mysterious about water? What is there? I mean, you know what could we possibly discover?
It's as plain as the water I'm drinking, Mickey. Surely.
Yeah, that's it. And the truth is that we don't know why water does what it does. No idea. None. Zero. Right? And I won't go into it because with the whole show cycle.
I'm sure that the water I'm drinking right now has been through, thousands of dinosaurs.
Oh, I have no doubt. Right? And no, you're never standing in the same river twice, like they say. But it's certainly interesting to look at these things that we like our day-to-day things, right? Because we just take them we don't see them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
All these things that are around us, they just blend into the background because they're no longer really necessary to be actively and consciously acknowledged. You just don't. You don't. You turn your filter on and Bob is your uncle. Don't have to worry. I don't rub it out. Okay, be good. Right? I'm always paying maybe an abnormal amount of attention to things I see out of the corner of my eye.
Oh yeah.
Things I see in the mirror, right? Not that I see very many things in the mirror, right?
I always check if I see something flash or move in my peripheral. I'll always look.
Yeah. And you should, right?
Yeah.
And why is it bad luck to break a mirror? Why do you get 7 years why 7 years of bad luck?
Number 7, Mickey. You did a show on that.
7 again, I know, right? And look, mirrors used to be quite expensive, I guess, like back when glass was expensive. And make no mistake, actual mirrors as we used to, they aren't really that old or haven't been around that long. People used to use polished metal for the most part.
Ineffectively.
As mirrors, right? In fact, the shield of Perseus. Was it Perseus? I don't want to lie here. I can't remember. Who killed? Maybe Theseus. Who killed?
Why are you looking it up? Jim, what are the mirrors, Mickey, that are crafted in such a way as to reflect light somewhere, but then include an image?
Yes, that's right.
They're remarkable. I love those.
I know. It's nuts. In fact, it's the image on the back of it.
That's right.
It's Sorry, I was right. It was Perseus. I should trust myself.
Well done. Trust yourself.
But he, he managed to, excuse me, to defeat her by making her look at herself in the mirror. Right? His shield served as the mirror, it's this fascination with the magic mirrors. Magic mirrors and the ability maybe to communicate. See, some say they were these communication mirrors. Yeah, that would connect people with each other.
I just know Miss Helena from Romper Room could see me through her magic mirror.
That's right.
I was on Romper Room when I was a kid.
Yeah. And they actually called what are they called? Mirror communication superpower, and that's not what I want. Well, this is all just role playing here. No, look, magic, mirrors and magic. Mirror communication, muggle magic. Unveiling. Ever since Harry Potter, anything magical brings you to Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Here we go. No, this is my beard. My beard. It's on Reddit. I don't like Reddit. No. Okay, forget about it. I'll find it. I'll find some other stuff that is more relevant.
Yeah, that's my Reddit experience.
Yeah, I know, right? Oh yeah, that's just wonderful. All the stuff that we have could be so wonderful, so great, and it isn't. So go figure.
Yeah, I'm looking at your Wikipedia.
Yeah, that's the way. What? Wikipedia is not accurate? But yeah, look, there is. Apparently, this Kozyrev mirror is really easy to build. Really easy. So, if you have the means, why not? Why not? And look, I don't know if the story for Alexei's disappearance has been verified. Right? I don't know. I don't have this information. I mean, I have a question here. I mean, how do they know how he felt, or that the mirrors started rotating faster if he disappeared? No one was with him, right? That's always my question. So how do you know what the last moments of this person were like?
You don't.
And they were by themselves. Nonetheless.
And how do you know that he went in it?
Exactly. Right? He might have fallen into a hole. Who knows? But
he might not have turned up that day. Who knows?
Yeah, that's it. But I'm always fascinated by disappearance stories. Of course, that's my bag, baby. We're gonna talk some more on Kozyrev next week, and we'll probably get into actually we probably will into remote viewing. We'll meet our old friends Ingo Swan and Harold Pothoff, Joseph McMonagle, Courtney Brown, etc., etc. Because the thing is the reason the Soviets, and you have to remember that the Kozyrev mirrors were, I guess, invented by Mr. Kozyrev during a time when Russia was under the rule of the Soviets. It was a Soviet Union back then. It was not Russia. And I can tell you right now that those guys didn't really tolerate failure very well. Okay, so if somebody had the state backing, which he did, to do something, to build something, then chances are it was quite useful in a similar way to the remote viewing activities that the CIA undertook, to spy on the Russians. At the same time, the Russians were using the same or similar methodologies to spy on the U.S. And there was a lot of remote viewing information I've come across, even to the point where remote viewers said there, like 4 alien bases in mountains, hidden in mountains on the planet as well, which is interesting. Obviously, always interesting. But remote viewing is deeply connected to the Kozyrev mirror enigma, because remote viewers could also travel in time. They had the ability, and at that point, it must become clear if we accept it as fact that these things actually happen. And if we don't, then we don't need to talk any further, obviously, because it was all nonsense. But if they did happen, it means that time and space are really not flowing and behaving in a way that we think they do. Then think about that. If you can remote view, that means your mind can be instantaneously, I don't know, 10,000 kilometers away, and you see something that's happening there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, light doesn't travel that fast. In fact, on cosmological distances, the speed of light is very slow.
Mm-hmm.
We have light arriving, so we're told, from galaxies, right, that are billions and billions of years. The light is billions of years old. So we see these galaxies as they were 12, 13, 14 billion years ago. And some of these galaxies are older than the universe,
that's an argument, yes, right now, yeah.
Which is a bit of a problem.
And we've discovered even older ones now.
Yeah. And if the Big Bang were a thing, and I'm not saying it isn't, okay, but let's say it's a thing, right? Then we can't really explain these old galaxies.
The thing that isn't there is the transition from the immediate mass ejected by the Big Bang. And the formation of a galaxy takes billions of years.
Well, that's what they say. I mean, what do we know, right? I mean, they say it takes that long. Clearly, it doesn't.
Well, the big argument is right now, some physicists, leading ones, are saying there wasn't one. There's no Big Bang.
And maybe we're back to the contraction-expansion theory of the universe. Meaning,
maybe I'm
yes,
right,
the universe expands and then it contracts, just like breathing, for example, right?
There's the music.
Is it? Oh, shoot. That's fast.
Music to my ears. It's the end of another Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mickey. We're going to catch you 7 a.m. on Tuesday and Thursday mornings Eastern Time for breakfast in Plato's Cave. And then also, again, next weekend, we'll catch you for another Shiny Side Out. In the meantime, be safe.